I am Super Vader 200, the most destructive force in all of YouTube today. I saw this pay-per-view 11 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. Most of these WCW, WWF pay-per-views from the late 90s, early 2000s seem so recent, like they happened yesterday. The first match of the night was a tag team match between Lash LaRue and Disco Inferno versus Big Vito and Johnny the Bull, the Mamalukes. This was a good match with lots of back and forth brawling and signature maneuvers from both teams. Big Vito wins with the spinning, lifting DDT and puts Disco Inferno in a body bag and carries him away. Like I said, this was an awesome. I'm a huge fan of all four of these guys. The Mamalukes, Big Vito, and Johnny the Bull were horribly misused in the WWE. The second match of the night was an intergender match between Evan Courageous and Medusa for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. This was a good match. Medusa took a lot of bumps in this match. Medusa beats Courageous with a distraction from Nitro Girl Spice and a low blow, and then a bridging German suplex to win the Cruiserweight Championship. A lot of people hated this storyline. A lot of people had a problem with this, with Medusa winning the Cruiserweight Championship, because it made a mockery of the Cruiserweight Championship. But I disagree. I think Medusa was one of the best and toughest female wrestlers WCW had. And I was young when a lot of this happened, so Vince Russo's booking never really bothered me. The third match of the night was between Ming and Screamin' Norman Smiley for the Hardcore Championship. This was an awesome, hilarious match. Ming dominated most of the match until Fit Finley and Brian Knobbs attacked Ming with a pipe, allowing Norman Smiley to pick up the win. The next match of the night was the Revolution, Shane Douglas, Dean Malenko, Harry Saturn versus Jim Duncan and the Varsity Club. This was a good match with some good brawling from both men. The Revolution win when the Varsity Club turns on Jim Duncan, thus making Jim Duncan become their janitor for a couple of months. The next match was Vampiro versus Dr. Death Steve Williams, and the stipulation was if Vampiro won, he would get 5 minutes in the ring with Oklahoma, Dr. Death's manager. This was a great match. It was a great contrast in styles. You had the martial arts style of Vampiro versus the technical powerhouse style of Dr. Death Steve Williams. Vampiro wins by disqualification after Steve Williams strikes the referee. After some brawling, Vampiro defeats Oklahoma with the nail in the coffin power driver. The next match of the night was Harlem Heat and Midnight versus Creative Control and Kurt Hennig. This was an awesome match. Midnight, just like Medusa, took some bumps in the match. Most women in wrestling do not do that, but she took some bumps in the match. They made her work. Creative Control wins after Brother Ray turns on Midnight and Booker T, thus ending Harlem Heat. The next match was a hardcore match between Dustin Rhodes and Jeff Jarrett. This was an awesome match. Lots of brawling and a few high spots from Dusty and Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett wins with interference from Kurt Angle and a guitar shot off the ladder to Dustin Rhodes. The next match of the night was Diamond Dallas Page versus David Richards in a crowbar on a pole match. This was a horrible match. I was just happy to see Diamond Dallas Page return and get revenge on David Flair for injuring him, and the debut of Daphne, who wrestles in TNA now. The next match of the night was Sting and Lex Luger. This was a good match, but it was too short. Nowhere near as good as the matches they had in the early 90s. Sting wins by disqualification after Miss Elizabeth hits him with the baseball bat. The next match of the night was the powerbomb match between Sid Vicious and Nash. This was a good match, good big man match, but it was too short. Nash wins after interference from Jarrett and tells the referee he powerbombed Sid. The next match of the night was Chris Benoit versus Jeff Jarrett for the United States Championship in a ladder match. This was a phenomenal match, and one of the best matches of the night. This match had a lot of brawling and high spots from both men. Chris Benoit wins the match after a flying headbutt off the ladder onto Jeff Jarrett and retrieves the belt. Scott Hall was generally supposed to wrestle Benoit for the United States Championship, but he was injured, so he forfeited the title to Benoit. The main event was Goldberg. The main event was Bret Hart versus Goldberg for the World Heavyweight Championship. This was a very awesome match with Bret Hart's traditional catch as can technical wrestling fighting style versus the powerhouse shoot fighting style of Goldberg. This match ends when Roddy Piper comes out and rings the bell and gives the title to Bret Hart in a scene reminiscent of the Montreal Screwjob from 2 years earlier. Well, that's my review of Starrcade 99. This was an awesome pay-per-view. The ladder match and the main events between Chris Benoit and Jeff Jarrett and Bret Hart versus Goldberg were matches of the night. A lot of people hated WCW around this time and had already switched the channel to WWF, but I didn't. I love WWF, but I was always into WCW. WCW was my favorite. Well, that concludes this pay-per-view review. Doug 8798 out.